It's a Friday. It's a lovely day. Hang on a minute. Microphone is on. That is always great news. Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for a tier list video. It's been a few months since I've done a tier list. I think the last one was like ranking potential Chelsea signings, and then we went out and did a madness in the transfer window, signed virtually everybody that we wanted. And since then, there have not been any tier list videos on the channel. If you want to see more of them, let me know in the comments down below and hit the like button on today's video. Let's see if we can hit 5,000, because today we're going to be putting all of Chelsea's players so far this season into a tier list. And it's not just any tier list, you know, normally it looks a bit like this. You've got like the classic different colours and it always looks the same. But I reached out to my man Bruce, who does a lot of the graphics here on GBFC, and I said, Brucey boy, can we sort something out which looks a little bit more hashtag yes guys, a little bit more GBFC, put a personal stamp on it. So big shout out to Bruce. It's gonna look very nice indeed. But of course, we're gonna do it from goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders and attackers. And I've gone with 5 different categories. We've got elite, which is going to be the players that I think have been exceptional so far this season. We've got the big improvement category, which of course is an improvement on either the player that was playing there last season and they've made that position better, or that individual has improved from last season. We've then, as I look, got solid, which is just like, you know what, he's done a bit of a job, to be fair. We've then got average, and we've then got underwhelming, which hopefully there won't be too many players in the underwhelming category, but if there is, I will of course give my justification as to why they've ended up there. So without any further ado, we're going to start off with the goalkeepers, and we're going to start off with a positive one. We're going to start with Edouard Mendy, and we are going to stick him immediately into the elite category. We've ranted and raved about it here on GBFC countless times about how good we feel as fans when we're watching Edouard Mendy in goal. He comes and claims set pieces, he makes good saves, he's keeping clean sheets, and it kind of gives the heart a little bit of a rest, because unfortunately with Kepa, who I'm going to put in the underwhelming category again, whenever you do a video like this one, you do need to bring up the criticism that was right to go his way. Edouard Mendy versus Kepa right now, it's an absolute no-brainer as to who the number one is at Chelsea. It's become very clear very quickly that Mendy not only has the confidence and the ability to come in and take that shirt, but he also instills a confidence in the defenders. We hear Lampard talking good things about him. We see his teammates saying good things about the way that he conducts himself in the dressing room. He's a big face, a big name, and he's settled right into Chelsea Football Club. So Kepa into the underwhelming category, Mendy into the elite category, and Willy Caballero sits himself in average. So then we move into the defenders, and we're going to start with Rudiger. And to be quite honest, it looked at one stage as though Rudiger didn't even have a future playing football in a Chelsea shirt. Frank Lampard didn't call upon him throughout the first few weeks of the season. It looked as though he was never going to get a chance again. And then all of a sudden he was called up to the Champions League squad to play against Krasnodar, and he kept a clean sheet, which to be honest was all that you could ask for him. When he's been given the opportunity so far, Rudiger, he's not done too badly at all. It's quite clear that he's not going to be the first Chelsea defender on the team sheet now. The 2 centre-backs are pretty much stapled in for the season. So Rudiger goes into the average category alongside Willy Caballero. The next player we're going to talk about is the captain. It's Cesar Azpilicueta. It's been, again, you've seen moments this season where Azpi's leadership's been on show. We've known ever since he signed for Chelsea that he's always going to give 100%, even if there are mistakes in there, even if sometimes when he goes forward, the final ball and delivery isn't quite at the level of a Reece James ball and delivery. But Azpilicueta, I always admire his professionalism. I always think that he is one of the only players in this team who you can guarantee has absolutely seen Chelsea as the one club to spend the majority of his career. He loves Chelsea Football Club, and Azpi's been solid, to be fair. There's not really that much I can say. Other than that, we move into Marcos Alonso, who again, before Ben Chilwell's injury, it was awful really from Alonso. That game against West Brom where he wanted to watch the rest of the game on the bus, I'm not going to forgive that one in a hurry. So for that reason, Marcos Alonso goes into the underwhelming category. I don't want to spend any more time speaking about it. We then move into Kurt Zouma, who in my opinion has been elite so far this season. You could argue that it goes into the big improvements category, but the man's scoring goals, he's winning all of his aerial duels in defence, he's making big blocks, big tackles, even getting kicked in the you-know-whats, still carrying on. Zuma's mentality is absolutely top class, and he's been an elite centre-back at the club so far this season. We then move into Reece James, and this one for me was a tough one to decide whether I put him into big improvement or whether I put him into the elite category, because you guys know that last season on GBFC, which was the first season of content with GBFC, I was always bigging up Reece James and singing his praises. However, it seems to me as though this season, whether it's the training and the understanding and development that he's gone through over the past few months, or the quality of players that he's playing alongside, it's very evident to me that big old Reece James has massively improved his game, and it's got to the point now where even Gareth Southgate, where Reece James can only play one of the 3 games, he still wants him in the squad, he still wants him in the side because he's aware of the ability that this kid has. It was recently, I think it's his birthday coming up soon, and I will link again Reece James's charity campaign in the description below if you haven't yet seen it or managed to donate. Reece James is in the elite category for me. We then move into Thiago Silva. I mean, what more is there to say about this geezer? I absolutely love him. If you look at his Instagram posts, even his tags, like he posts lovely pictures with his kids, the caption's delightful. He just seems like an all-round good geezer, to be honest. And then you look in the tags and it's just like London calling. He loves the club. He loves the place already. He's already potentially looking at signing a new deal because his agent said at the beginning of the season that he could play at this level until he's about 41 years old, which means that Chelsea signed him on a free, absolute bargain of all bargains, and we could see him playing at this level for a very long time. Maldini-esque. Thiago Silva is going straight into the elite category. Moving into Ben Chilwell, you guys know if you watched my video the other day, I genuinely believe that Chilwell, so far, has been our player of the season. I think the massive improvement that we've seen on that left-hand side of the pitch, he's getting forward scoring goals, he's making assists. We've now got 2 players in Chilwell and also Ziyech who can put in wonderful crosses of a football. Chilwell goes into elite. If I gave him anything else, it would be an injustice to myself and an injustice to Big Benjamin himself. We move into Andreas Christensen, and sadly, it's been underwhelming from Christensen again. It's got to a point now where I don't know if he's good enough for Chelsea Football Club. I've always wanted him to succeed. I think we've always known that there is a good player in there, but it seems to me as though nerves and big matches just seem to get the better of him, which at this kind of level isn't good enough for Chelsea Football Club. So Christensen goes into underwhelming. And we move into Emerson, who has pretty much moved himself into the second choice left back after Alonso self-sabotaged his Chelsea career by the seemings of things, according to Frank Lampard. Emerson, I'd say that when he's come on, it's kind of been when Chelsea are winning games, we look comfortable already, so can't really say anything more than average from Emerson. I've not really seen anything that suggests that his game has elevated because Chilwell's clearly come in and become the number 1. So Emerson goes into average. We move into the midfielders. And we start off with Hakim Ziyech, who, I mean, in the minutes that he's played, obviously it's a bit skewed in terms of the data because he's not had as many minutes as maybe a Mason Mount or somebody that we can compare him to. Ziyech, since he's come in, it's been nothing shy of elite. So he goes straight into that category. I think he's been magnificent so far this season. We've seen how when he's introduced into this team, Chelsea have new dynamic elements. We've got that player that can get fans off their seats if they're bloody allowed to sit in the stands. Ziyech has been magnificent. He goes into the elite category, moving in to Georginio. I feel as though with Georginio, I get excited about some performances, but then once I finish the game and I watch it back again, I think, you know what? He does these flashes and moments of brilliance once or twice. He has the opportunity to do it so many more times, but he takes the easy option far too often. I think Georginio's been average. I think it's clear, in my opinion, that even though Frank is still using him, I think that the way that we move forward with this team doesn't involve J5. As much as I think he's been pretty good at times this season, I'm putting him in average. It was between that and solid, but I'm going for average just because the more I watch him play, the more I realise he could do far more with the ball. The next player is big Kai Havertz. Now, the thing with Havertz, some of you guys say that I've not given him enough credit so far this season. I always like to base the player's performance off of what I know they can do, off of what I know their best is. And even though Kai Havertz has, in my opinion, I'm putting him in the big improvements, I feel as though he's definitely improved this side, but compared to what I know he can do, I'm not going to classify what he's done so far as elite because I know he's only going to get better. So Havertz has improved the Chelsea team. I think he's definitely accustomed to the Premier League much quicker than I anticipated him to do, and I've been impressed. I'm not gonna lie. I think when he does have the ball and when he doesn't have the ball, some people think that he's a little bit lazy, but Havertz does a lot more running than the majority of players on the pitch. He gets back, he tries to defend. There are still a couple of sloppy errors in there, here and there, but he's 21 years old. Give the man a break. Havertz has improved this Chelsea team. We move into Mateo Kovacic. Now, Kovacic looked pretty good playing as a number 8. In the game against, who was it? I've forgotten now. It was so bloody long ago. Sheffield United. Kovacic in an 8. It was something that worried me a little bit. I did pick that team correctly in my preview. And Kovacic impressed me. I thought he was pretty good. Before that, it looked as though he was kind of out of favour from Lampard. He was our player of the season last season. Didn't really get much of a look in. But, you know, based off of that one performance, I'd go as far as to say Kova has been solid so far this season. It's not been the same heights as last year, but I think we might see more minutes for him soon. The next player we're going to talk about is Ngolo Kante, and I think it's very clear to see that when Kante is in this side and he's playing well, Chelsea are a much better team. We look so much more balanced when N'Golo Kante's on form, and I think a big reason why, particularly in the last couple of matches, we have looked so good and the balance has been there is because Kante's answered the question as to whether or not he can actually do that job playing in the holding role on his own. I think so far we've not necessarily seen it against the best quality opposition in the Premier League, but you can only beat what's put in front of you in football, and I think it's been a big improvement from N'Golo Kante this season. There were times last year where he did look a little bit off the pace, and I remember a couple of weeks ago, I did say that I wanted to see more from N'Golo Kante, and in the 2 matches, since I said that in a video here on GBFC with Jan, I feel as though he's done that. So I was going to move him into solid, but I've put him into big improvement. It was borderline between big improvement and solid, but I think the best is still to come from N'Golo Kante this season. The next player we're going to talk about is Mason Mount. Mason Mount, at the beginning of the year, people thought, how is Mason going to keep his place in this team? We've brought in so many good attacking players. The midfield is looking jam-packed. How is Mason going to deal with it? What's he going to do? Is he going to bring goals? Is he going to be able to keep up that intensity? And I think Mason Mount's game has elevated since we brought in these players. We see the trust that Frank Lampard still has in him. We see how effective he can be playing in his favoured position in that number 8 role. We saw it very well against Sheffield United. On the wing, I think we're done with that now. We understand that Mason is not a winger. And I think that considering the players we've brought in, and when you compare the performances of, say, a Havertz and also a Mount, you can see why Mason Mount gets such high praise from pretty much everybody in football right now. It's because he is operating on a similar level to some of these players we've brought in. Mason Mount, I put him into the big improvements category. The next player we're going to discuss is a man who had a brilliant end to last season, and then all of a sudden Chelsea bring in Timo Werner. Olivier Giroud doesn't really get a sniff. There's not much else I can say other than he's got to go in the average category, to be honest. There's been a couple of times he's come on. He's not looked match fit. He's not looked as sharp as he did towards the end of last season because, quite frankly, Frank Lampard isn't giving him the game time. The next geezer we're going to discuss is Callum Hudson-Odoi. This one's always a difficult one because I always think that Callum comes in for a lot of criticism, and sometimes I feel as though it's a little bit unfair. Basing this one objectively off of what I've seen from Callum and the faith or lack of faith, we could say, that Frank seems to have in playing him when there's been wingers that have had injuries so far, and yet Mason Mount still starts on the left. For that reason, and yes, he did come on and change the game against West Brom, he's got a goal. He's been that solid because I've not been that impressed by Callum, so I'm going to put him in average. I know that's one that is definitely going to come up for some debate. Let me know in the comments if you agree with what I've done here. But I expect more from Callum Hudson-Odoi. I'm sure he expects more from himself. We know that Frank Lampard expects more from him. I hope we see it between now and the end of the season. The next player we're going to talk about is Tammy Abraham. I've been incredibly impressed with Tammy Abraham so far. I saw a stat today that suggested he's made 38 starts since the start of the Premier League last season, 22 goals, 11 assists. That's 33 goal contributions in 38 starts in a Chelsea shirt. I'd go as far as to say that Tammy Abraham's career so far at Chelsea has been incredibly underrated. And I think his performances this season, we've seen him grow as a player. We've seen him take on new roles where he knows that he's going to have to add different dynamic elements to his game to be in contention to be competing with someone like Timo Werner. He's been a bit lucky with the Pulisic injury over the last couple of weeks, but when you're given the opportunity, your job is to perform and score goals. And Tammy has done that. I'm putting him in the big improvements category, even though he's obviously not scoring as much as he did last year, but his minutes to goals is still very good indeed. Christian Pulisic. Now, we've not seen as much of Pulisic this season as we would like, so I don't want to discuss it too much, but I'm putting him in solid for now because he did increase the roof in terms of expectations with his performances at the end of last season. We've not seen that kind of level yet, but he keeps picking up injuries. There is a bit of a worry. I do want to talk about Pulisic in an upcoming video over the next few days, but he's been solid. We'll move into Timo Werner, who, in my opinion, is an elite striker, and he's been elite so far at Chelsea. He's not he has actually had games where he's raised the roof a little bit from Werner. I feel as though there are so many people that just want to see him fail, and I read all of these comments and I read that like his first touch is like Lukaku from a couple of Man United fans on Twitter, and sometimes I maybe belittle the record already that Timo Werner has at Chelsea. I think he's come in, clearly shown that he has the ability, he makes these brilliant runs over the top, he makes space for the attacking players that support him from midfield. Very impressed with Timo. He goes into the elite category, and you guys can see now the GBFC tier list for Chelsea players so far this season. I'm probably going to do another one of these when the next international break comes in the new year, so if you did enjoy it, be sure to hit the like button on today's video. You can follow me on Twitter and also Instagram, they're both linked in the description, at Mr. George Benson. I like to keep you guys updated with my life, not just to do with Chelsea Football Club, but also what I'm doing here in Bali and stuff over on Instagram, so make sure you're following, subscribe if you are new, and let me know if you agree with the way that I've scheduled this tier list in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for a brand new video. See you all there. Bye-bye.